this one's just going to be recorded because, I don't know, things are acting weird. All right, give me a quick mic check.
Hello.
All right, sounds good. All right, let's get this party started. Welcome, everybody, to episode 5 of J&A Sideline Report. Thanks for tuning in with us again for another weekly talk of sports news, highlights, top plays, and just top takes. If you guys have noticed, we do have a new channel up. So that is all the new social links. We have someone working on our account now to kind of help manage our account in the background. So we got a new YouTube page. That's J&A.SidelineReport. We have an Instagram page. Check us out there. We actually have a TikTok now, and we have official Twitter. So we are branched away from my main account, which was like my gaming account. So now we're kind of our own platform. So we'll get everybody here and situated and subscribed here shortly enough. But thanks again for you guys tuning in to us. Without further ado, let's get talking about today's topics. Our first topic we want to go over is kind of what we want to call rookie recap. And we want to go kind of by the first round draft picks, maybe even some of the second round draft picks in the NFL, and talk about how their performance was, what we saw of them, what we didn't see, and what we can expect for the rest of their season going forward. So without further ado, I'm going to kick this over to Albert, and why don't you go ahead and start us off with the number 1 overall draft pick, Cam Ward. Briefly go over what you saw in him, what you liked, what you didn't like, and what do you expect for the rest of his season.
Okay. Yeah, with Cam Ward, first round pick of the Tennessee Titans out of the University of Miami. So was expecting big things, right? It's my college team.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he played overall one of the top 3 defenses in the league. They have, the reigning defensive player of the year in Patrick Surtain over there. They also have Nick Bonito, who I think is one of the better younger defensive ends that not a lot of people know about.
Mm-hmm.
So for him, obviously not impressive with the stats, right? 12 of 28, only 112 yards. He did have 6 sacks and he fumbled late in the game. I think for me, though, I think he played overall a good game. And the reason why I'll say good, you look at the stats, it doesn't look great. But with the team that he's playing, with the Broncos, with the fact that they have a chance to be a playoff team, maybe even win that division, we'll talk about that maybe later with the Chiefs. And he just kept his team in the game. Some drop passes from his receivers. He missed a couple of reads. One thing about Cam Ward coming out of college, he will give people opportunities to get interceptions because he's always willing to try to make a hero ball play because of his arm talent. He believes in it a lot. But overall, I think he played a pretty good game. Obviously, he has to clear up the sacks. And hopefully his teammates, his receivers help him out with catching some of the passes. But like I said, I love the press conference with him taking accountability for everything that he did. And I think that leadership and just his overall ability is going to help him and help the Titans move forward. So overall, I think I give him like a solid B performance for his first game.
Okay, I definitely agree with some of those points. And speaking about his press conference when he took accountability, he even did this in the preseason on some plays that clearly weren't his fault. But he's early on already showing the capacity to be a leader, which is what you really want out of your franchise quarterback. You want them to kind of be able to take responsibility, even if it's not necessarily their fault. That really kind of helps team morale. It helps your team kind of gather around you because they know they can trust you. You're not going to throw them under the bus. And honestly, sometimes, most of the time, it helps get the best out of your teammates because they want to make you look good and they don't want to put you in positions to have to take blame or take criticism for things that may or may not be your fault. So that's one thing I definitely did like to see out of him this week. He did have some really nice throws, especially kind of being calm in the pocket. The Titans, from my knowledge, don't have the greatest offensive line, but they did a pretty decent job protecting him. And, he did make some mistakes, probably held onto the ball a little bit more than he wanted to, which I did think was going to be an issue with him coming out of college because, in Miami, he did hold onto the ball quite a long time, make some plays. He was fortunate enough to have a pretty solid O-line with Miami. And some of the teams they played didn't have the greatest of pass rush, but I did notice that, when teams started putting a little pressure on him, he started to kind of force some throws. And kind of showed that more of this first game. But once again, like you did say, they did play against PS2, Patrick Surtain II, which is the best corner in the league, in my opinion, right now. And just the Broncos defense as a whole is a well-known, amazing defense. So the fact that they were actually even able to kind of stick around in that game and play as well as they did was surprising. So I definitely think I definitely think he has a pretty bright future ahead of him. Yeah, he did have some drops, and I think the only thing that's mainly going to hurt him is not having that veteran wide receiver with leadership. He's got Calvin Ridley, but Calvin Ridley's already kind of had a shaky start in the NFL himself. So, though he definitely does have the talent, the consistency is kind of what we've been looking for. And with him dropping that major big pass, I mean, drops happen to everyone, but definitely look to see him build off of that after this week one. So, I'm not expecting much out of the Titans, but I think with Cam Ward there, they have a pretty solid future. I think once they put a couple more pieces together on that team, I could definitely see that team being something in that division. Going on to the second overall pick, Travis Hunter for the Jags. He's predominantly been playing wide receiver. He actually received the most snaps in that game. He led the league in led the team in targets, even though they do have Brian Thomas Jr. over there. So, how do you feel about how he played, how he was used on the team, and his lack of defensive snaps with the Jaguars in Week 1?
Yeah, I mean, it's like we talked about when we talked about Hunter in a couple of the previous episodes. I think as a defensive back, he's a generational guy because of his instincts and his athletic ability. So for me, when they came out and said they were going to primarily use him on offense, I felt like right off the bat, they're already putting him in not in a position to not succeed, but not putting him in the best position for him to succeed and show his talents.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's a great athlete. He led the team in targets, but you look at it, only 6 catches for 33 yards on 8 targets. And then subsequently, that means BTJ, who I think is their actual number 1 receiver, former rookie last year, who's a breakout. He only had 2 touches. One of his touches went for an end-around touchdown. But the fact that they tried so hard to get Travis Hunter involved, I think that's only going to hurt them moving forward in the offense. If they didn't play such a terrible team in the Carolina Panthers, I think it could have been like a game where they'd lost because you're not using your number 1 target. And again, like I said, not seeing him that much on defense really to me was a really negative thing. I think you had mentioned, and I'll let you talk about it more, that there was a big play that, J.C. Horn kind of broke up for Hunter. But even still, I think, what we talked about, I think he should have been used more in the primetime role, especially as a rookie. When primetime, and people forget because it was so long ago, right? But when primetime, Deion Sanders is who I'm talking about. When he was drafted from the Atlanta Falcons to play corner, we did use him as punt returner, kick returner, and he was lined up as a slot receiver as well in some offensive formations. And I just felt like if that's how they use Travis Hunter, that's the best way to use his abilities. But I think so. For me, if I had to grade him, I would say for his role and what he played. I mean, I don't think Travis Hunter, when you think of him, I don't think of him as a possession receiver, but when you average 5 yards a catch, you're becoming like a really bad possession receiver, right? So for me, I feel like it was maybe a C output, and I don't really think it's his fault. I think it was the way that he was utilized.
Yeah, no, I completely agree as far as his utilization. I feel like on the offensive side, he could definitely, just due to his athleticism and his ability to pick up the game pretty quick, I definitely think he could be a top 15, top 20 receiver in the league. I definitely, I don't, at least me personally, I don't really see him being like a top 5 receiver in the league. But at corner, though, excuse me, with his instincts, I definitely believe if he was used primarily at corner, or even just more snaps on corner, I definitely think he does have the capability to be a top 3, top 5 corner in the league. Because when I watched from him in Colorado and even Jackson State, this guy has instincts, and it's something you really can't teach a player. You can teach them how to play the zone, you can teach them how to make reads on routes and whatnot, and they can gain experience. But I mean, I've seen this guy play a cloud flat, which is primarily what you see in like a cover 2 coverage for those who don't know, to where he's responsible for the receiver on his side, essentially kind of going about 8 to 10 yards deep, and then maybe kind of working his way back out into the flats. I've seen him where he would carry like a streak route up top, and then instinctually would know that he's got a receiver coming underneath, and he would immediately break back down to the flats and make a crazy athletic interception. So stuff like that, like I said, you can't teach. You can teach great technique, but instincts like that are generational, and I feel like his not being able to be used in that sense is kind of a downfall. And since, like you said, they don't really need another number 1 receiver, they have BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr. He more than proved himself week 1. Year 1, where I mean he was the top receiver. I mean LSU period. They just produce great receivers. You look at him. You look at Jamar Chase. Plenty of other examples. These guys they breed great receivers. So I think not having that Justin Jefferson, just throw another name. I think not using him on the defensive side is kind of gonna maybe cap out his potential. So I definitely would like to see the Jags kind of utilize him more on defense. And if you are going to use him on offense, he needs to be kind of a yak kind of guy, more of like a rack kind of guy, like, rack and yak, where he gets a lot of yards after the catch, So that means running him on a lot of mesh concepts, a lot of underneath drags, maybe some shallow crosses, some deep digs and whatnot. Getting him the ball in space, essentially kind of how Miami tends to use Tyreek Hill. Where they get him into a lot of motion, get him the ball fast underneath, get the ball in his hands, so that way then he can kind of go to work and make a lot of people miss. So I think that's probably his best. He did have a potentially really big play against the Panthers where he was running across the field from the right side to left, probably like on a deep crosser. And if had it not been just slightly underthrown, it was a mix of be underthrown by Trevor Lawrence and J.C. Horn just making a crazy athletic play. He had an amazing interception on Travis Hunter, where that could have been changed the game for them. That could have been the Jaguars' touchdown had he caught that pass. So I definitely think it's, week one, we can overreact on a lot of things. I definitely think he has a bright future ahead of him. But I do believe his potentially could be capped if they don't utilize him more on the defensive side and not just strictly on the receiver side. So definitely looking forward to see how his career progresses and hope the best for him. Moving on to the third overall pick, we have Abdul Carter, who I know you're not so hot on, from linebacker from Penn State with the New York Giants. Talk to me about, just looking at some of his stats right now. He only got a half of a sack. He did block a punt, though, and force a grounding penalty. So he did have pressure. Even though the numbers didn't show it, he was putting pressure on the quarterback when he was able to rush. Obviously, it didn't lead to a Giants win. I mean, we can obviously talk about how Russell Wilson didn't play very well, and the team is already kind of calling for. I think Brian Daboll hasn't even confirmed that Russell Wilson's going to be the starter for Week 2. So that kind of
Dart is going to start sooner than later, Doc. Their jobs are on the line over there in New York, and they drafted Jackson Dart. So
yeah, I mean, I 100% agree, and I think we might even see him sooner more than later because. Like I said, Daboll hasn't even confirmed that Russell Wilson's going to start Week 2. And they're not really missing out much on not having Russell Wilson start. They're not paying him much. They do have Jameis Winston behind him also, though, which I think, according to the depth chart, I believe Jameis is number 2, and I think Jackson Dart's number 3.
Well,
so
that's going to help their defense just as much as it helps the receivers. So
yeah, so I'm curious to see. But, I mean, just going off of those numbers and, the sneak peek that you saw Abdul Carter, what do you think? Do you still feel the same about him? You need to see more? Do you like what you saw or what?
I mean, like I said before, I'm not sold on Abdul Carter. I think he's reach. I don't think he's next Micah Parsons. I don't think he's even an elite pass rusher at this point. Mm-hmm. I think he's an elite athlete that needs to learn a lot. I think Brian Burns had a great game, but that's
he had an amazing game.
He's a beast.
Yeah.
I mean, he's literally. I think he's top 3. I think he's top 3. I'll say top 3 when healthy. Mm-hmm. Because of stats, he hasn't been healthy. But I think between him and Hendrickson. And then you got the Watt and the Garrett, right? I think Brian Burns is right in that category with the way he's been able to disrupt. And I'm just saying this because when he was in Carolina, the man was an absolute menace. When he was in Carolina before he came to New York, and then he's been a little injury prone in New York. But for me, with Abdul Carter, I think with having a Dexter Lawrence, with having a Brian Burns, with even having a Thibodeau kind of moving in, you would expect a guy like this to be able to just like come in and right away get at least a sack. He had 3 tackles combined, 1 solo tackle. Like you said, he did block a punter or something of this nature, and he was kind of mixed in. But for me, with the hype, and we'll talk about some other guys too. When you come in with hype like this, we're talking about you're comparing him to a Micah Parsons type player. I might just chill, right? Micah Parsons is 1-1.
Yeah.
Like we can't act like everybody just because he's from Penn State, he's not that guy. Again, like to me, when I looked at him. Another guy who we may not talk about because he's a second-round pick, should have been a first-round pick, is Mike Green. He had the most complete skill set as a defensive end. Mm-hmm. He had off-the-field issues that kept him out of it. But Abdul Carter is a special type of athlete, but I think it's going to take a year or two. I can see him year 2, year 3, just because of the players he's around. Mm-hmm. And if they keep the coaching, like he could become somebody. But with his, he got drafted because he was an athlete. I'm just keeping it honest.
Yeah.
And I don't see him very good in the run game. He's kind of always on his back in the run game. And if you can't stop the run, then you can't stop the passer. Like, I really don't know how you're going to get on the field because Thibodeau and Brian Burns both can do, they can both rush the passer. And, so it's like he's not going to find very many reps on this team if he doesn't pick one. Even if he was a dominant edge rusher, right? Jadeveon Clowney, Chase Young, these guys came out high pedigrees, high production in college, which Abdul Carter did not have. But they are at least very prominent in the run game, right? They were able to stop the run game, so that kept them on the field.
Yeah.
But for me, with Abdul Carter, I think it's a long road ahead for him as far as pass rushing goes. He may have a game or two where he has 2 sacks, maybe even 3 sacks, but I think that's because of the talent around him. When you have the guys we talked about, the Brian Burns, the Dexter Lawrence, the Kayvon Thibodeau, like, it's kind of easy to come in as the 4th guy. You know what I mean?
That's true.
You should be getting a lot of one-on-ones. You should be winning those one-on-ones, if you who you are. But I didn't see anything special, and I haven't seen anything special since he's come in the league. So.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, I mean, really, I kind of agree with the points. There's still it's week 1. It's early. Didn't get to see too much. I mean, the Giants as a whole didn't play well, so definitely would like to see.
Russell Wilson looked absolutely god awful, though. We could all agree on that. Like, he's just done. He's done.
Yeah, it's definitely. Here's the thing. A lot of people gave him a lot of flack when he played in Denver, and I think unrightfully so because he actually still had great numbers when he played in Denver, despite their record. They didn't win many games. I mean, you could attribute that to a lot of things. Sean Payton, the coach didn't really agree with him, and maybe it was a little self-sabotage there. Could have been the play calling, could have been the defense, could have been a lot of things. But I mean, he actually had a great season. I'm sorry, not last season. Last season was with the Steelers. The season before, he was with the Broncos. And even with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he had a pretty solid season. So, I mean, I don't really think age has really caught up to him and hit him as much as I saw this past week, this week here. He definitely looked like, okay, maybe he's kind of lost a step. Maybe and once again, it's week 1, so a lot of this could be overreaction. Some people, these guys aren't getting, especially these veteran players, they're not getting a lot of reps in preseason like the days of old where they would get, a whole half plus maybe a quarter in weeks 3 and week 4 in the preseason. With there being a shortened preseason as it is, and, everyone primarily prioritizing keeping their star players, their franchise players healthy. Yeah, these guys aren't even getting any reps at all outside of practice. So it could be just first week 1 jitters, new team, new coach, new offense. It's a lot of new things. We got to see second-year pro Malik Neighbors. He was really frustrated with Brian Daboll because he wasn't getting many targets. So I'm pretty sure they're going to address that.
He got the targets, Doc. They were just just terrible targets. But I did just see, I'm watching the pregame from, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm watching the pregame from Monday night. And the Giants are sticking with Russell Wilson in week 2. So it's going to be, if you got Malik Neighbors on your fantasy team or Tyron Tracy, I'm really sorry. But it's going to be another bad week for you. So maybe they have the name recognition right now. Maybe try to get them in a trade. If you don't have Malik Neighbors, this might be the best time to buy low on them because once Jackson Dart gets in there, I think we're going to see a little bit different style of offense over there in New York.
Well, you're calling for Jackson Dart, but you are still completely bypassing the fact that they have Jameis Winston. And according to the depth chart, Jameis is next man up. So, I mean, you think they would bypass Winston and go straight to Dart or what?
Yeah, I'm just telling you right now, Daboll's job is on the line, Doc. And they picked Jackson Dart in the first round, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they trade up for him, or they had another pick?
They traded up.
To get Jackson Dart.
Yeah,
so they traded up to get Jackson Dart. There were other quarterbacks in there, right? We all want to talk. The Shador thing is a whole nother thing, but that's the guy they like. That's the guy. And in the preseason, he looked phenomenal. So for me, if I'm going out as a head coach, I'm going out with the guy I chose. Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson, these guys were bridge guys to maybe help Jackson Dart, in the film room, how to be a leader, things of that nature. As much as we want to talk and hate on Jameson Williams, everybody says as a teammate, he's one of the best guys to be around. So as a teammate, Russell Wilson isn't always like that. But
let me correct you. You meant Jameis Winston, not Jameson Williams, the receiver for the Detroit Lions. Jameis Winston, quarterback for the Giants.
Jameis Winston. So he's always been, like everybody says who's played with him, he's a great teammate. Russell Wilson doesn't bring that side because he never gets that. No. But he is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. So you get that around the guy that has this raw talent and Dart, who I wasn't very high on. But at this point, why the hell would you go from aging quarterback to another aging quarterback when you drafted this young stud and your job's on the line? Like, I'm sorry, I'm going with the guy I drafted.
That's an interesting take because I feel like if you are really more concerned about your job, instead of maybe going for essentially a complete question mark with Jackson Dart, even though he did look great in the preseason, but that's a lot against a lot of 2s and 3s, and it's preseason. Not everyone's even coming out with their official plays and their playbooks. A lot of people are disguising things, but so yeah, he did look great. But I think the reason they got Jameis Winston is because just in case Russell Wilson didn't work out, Jameis Winston has been pretty successful as a backup at every team he's went through. Like, yeah, he does throw some picks. He does make some questionable decisions, but overall, like he knows how to win games. He wins you football games. He's still mobile, and I think that's one of the major things they're missing with Russell Wilson. And he's no longer the mobile Seahawks Russell Wilson he used to be. So when he kind of has to move around in the pocket, he's kind of just dead in the water waiting to get sacked. And then he doesn't have the same arm talent and decision making as before. And it doesn't really help that he's switching offenses, switching coaches. A lot of people believe that he was a huge product of Pete Carroll's offense. I think he was able to dissuade that thinking when he went to Denver, played well, and he went to Pittsburgh and played well. But I think overall, I think me personally, I think if Daboll wanted to, thought his job was in jeopardy, I think he would go with a more sure thing in Jameis Winston than maybe going straight in there, putting the rookie in the fire. Kind of similar to the Steelers.
Well, you gotta look at it this way. With the Atlanta Falcons, right? You bring in $100 million quarterback, and he doesn't work out for you, so you put in the rookie with Raheem Morris. And I get it was Raheem Morris's first year, but the fact that the Falcons didn't make the playoffs when they started 6-3. Any coach should have gotten fired for that, right? But what happened? You put in a young quarterback who, by the way, only won one of his first 3 games, but he was exciting. You could see the future. And with the New York team, that's what you want to see. You already have neighbors. You got Tyrone Tracy. You got Scatterbo. You got Wan'Dale Robinson. You got Jalen Hyatt. You have Andrew Thomas, who, by the way, isn't playing right now, but you have Andrew Thomas on the team. You have a very young core around there. So if I'm Daboll, I'm like, hey, look, maybe we win 6 or 7 games, but did you see how good Jackson Dart and Malik Neighbors looked together? Hey, did you see how Tyrone Tracy and Scatterbo was a good 1-2 punch? I think that extends you as far as the ownership would go, whereas if you put a Jameis Winston, you win 8 games, maybe you win 7 games, but you don't make the playoffs, I think you're gone then. But if you're able to they look at this is finally, because Daniel Jones didn't work out over there, right? They tried everything they could to make Daniel Jones work. They even lost Saquon Barkley in the process. And so you went all in with Daniel Jones. Now this is actually Daboll's guy is Jackson Dart. So that's how I feel. Like, Jameis Winston aside, he may be a decent, good quarterback, but that doesn't excite anybody in the fan base moving forward. The guy moving forward is Jackson Dart. You drafted him in the first round. So let's see what he's got. And if he does anything good, I think that keeps Daboll around for one more year. Like, hey, we're going to give you another shot, because with Jackson Dart and those other guys around him and the defense, which I think the defense is going to be much improved, then you have an exciting team. I think
the comparison with the Falcons isn't probably as accurate, because they had Kirk Cousins already, but they didn't have a backup. There was no veteran backup. There was no rookie prospect backup. So
that's not true. We had Heineke.
And once again, Heineke is not a very veteran backup. He had one good stint with with Washington. You can attribute that to the coach, to Jay Gruden over there. Outside of that, he's not like a well-known, a solid backup like a Jameis, I would say, or even like my boy from that played for the Cowboys. What's his name? He's now on a new team. Cooper Rush. Thank you. So I think those guys are more even at Andy Dalton, Well, that's true, but even like an Andy Dalton. So I think with that, they were like, okay, just in case Kirko doesn't go, we have a future, since they didn't believe in their first few draft picks. We have a future in Penix. He's coming in more ready. He did his time in college. He's coming in as a more prepared quarterback. And then if we don't like what we see from Kirko, we can give the reins. But I think the fact that they signed Jameis, knowing that they were already having, Dart on their board to bring him in, I think that's still kind of attributed to, hey, we have a veteran quarterback that we think we can win some games with. We give Jackson Dart some time to kind of learn the offense, sit on the bench, kind of sit behind 2 veterans with great experience in each of their individual regards, and maybe we see what Jameis does. And honestly, Jameis puts puts butts in the seats. He's an entertaining player to watch. People like him regardless of what he's doing. He's a fun guy to watch. I mean, his personality is amazing. I think he's got a great career in just in TV and media period, even after he's done with his football career. But I think they go to Jameis before they go to Jackson. And otherwise, it's just like, well, why is he there? Because he's not a caliber of a quarterback that you bring in just in case of injuries. You bring that guy in, they're like, hey, I need you to win us a few football games, so I'm going to put you in there. So I think with Russell Wilson, and like I said, they're not losing much by benching Russell Wilson because they're not really having to pay him. The only team that's still having to pay him is Denver Broncos. They gave him that huge contract extension and then tried to get rid of him. So ever since then, he doesn't have to receive any big contracts from the Pittsburgh Steelers nor the Giants because he's already been paid. So I think with Jameis coming in, I think that's probably their next move. But I mean, like I said, we'll have to see what they do after week 2. Russell Wilson, like you said, he's going to get the start for week 2, so we'll see what happens with that.
For me, real quick, closing remark. I think difference of opinion. I think that Jameis was brought in there to compete with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson beat him out, and I think if Daboll doesn't go with the rookie after they decide that Russell Wilson is no longer the quarterback, that he needs to brush up on his skills like Jameis Winston because he's going to be looking for a job.
If that's true, though, why wouldn't they have cut him on the 53-man roster? If Russell Wilson won the roster, because they know they can get some value out of Jameis had they traded him. You can get value because hell, we saw week 1. There's plenty of teams that can use a Jameis Winston right now.
Yeah, but here's a perfect example, right? The New Orleans Saints, they had Jameis on the roster, and he's better than any of the quarterbacks on the roster right now.
Yeah, but we've already discussed. I've already told you about them. I feel like New Orleans Saints are 100% in tank mode. There's no reason they draft Tyler Show that high or at all, and pass up on Shedeur Sanders, pass up on even Jackson Dart. They passed up on a lot. So if they were really serious about making it, I feel like
pass up on Dart, he was gone. But I would say that I would disagree if you watched the game.
No, they didn't. They drafted Kelvin Banks with their first pick. Jackson Dart was Yeah, he was also a first round pick, but their pick was like pick 26 or something. They got from Texans.
Yeah, and Tyler Shoe was drafted in the second round, right?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If they were going all in on a quarterback, they would have gotten him in the first round. And like I said, which once again they could have had Jackson Dart. So I feel like the fact that they did pass on him, up on him in the first place, like they weren't really serious. And the fact that, like I said, Spencer Rattler already did have a bad showing, and the fact that if Tyler Shoe was even decent enough, the fact that they completely lost trust in Spencer Rattler last year, and now they bring him back just because he's the better of two. I mean, they're both really not very great quarterbacks. Even though Rattler had a pretty decent game week 1, they're both not great quarterbacks. They don't see either of them as franchise quarterbacks for their team. So, like I said, I don't think the Saints is a great comparison because I just feel like they're tanking. I 100% feel like the team's going to tank.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, difference of opinion. Like I said, I think it's going to be really bad for Daboll if he doesn't go with the rookie, but we'll see.
Moving forward, we got Ashton Jeanty, the 6th overall pick with the Raiders. He had, my opinion, not that great of a showing, but it's liable to see. Is it his fault? Is it the offensive line? He had 19 carries for only 38 yards, which means he only averaged 2 yards a carry. He did have his first rushing touchdown. He had a 3-yard touchdown in the goal line. He had 2 catches, only 2 yards, though. From what I saw just from watching the game, and it's kind of like how I felt about when they drafted a running back or GT period that early. I think like he has a lot of hype over him, which I do think he has, potentially a great future for him. But as if I'm the Raiders, you don't have a great run blocking offensive line. You really don't have a quarterback for the future. I mean, you have Geno, who played an amazing game this week, and he's great. But like Geno's not your future 3 to 5 year quarterback. He's kind of a bridge quarterback, and you don't even have a team built for like a win now. So even getting a Geno is more like, okay, so what's your plans here? Because you didn't get a quarterback. I mean, they did, and then they also just traded after the Browns, release, or they kind of got their quarterbacks. They did trade for Kenny Pickett, but once again, like, do they feel Kenny Pickett is their future? I don't believe so. So my thing is, I don't know what the Raiders are doing. I feel like they're just kind of getting players for entertainment. They are in Vegas now, so I don't know if they're just trying to sell tickets by getting a big splashy player, a skill player like an Ashton Jeanty. Like I said, I feel kind of sorry for him because had he went to a better prepared team, I feel like he maybe could have a great opportunity. But the fact that if you watch most of the runs, it's not really him as far as getting loose. I mean, he's having to break a tackle almost immediately after he gets the handoff. Even in the pass game, they try to run a couple of screens to him. The play's getting blown up as soon as it starts. So, and I don't even know if necessarily it's fair like it's play calling because I feel like Pete Carroll obviously called a great game passing, and Pete Carroll's also known as a runner, so it's not like he just despises the run or he doesn't know it, or he usually runs his offense through the run game. So I mean, hints that even though Genty was only averaging 2 yards a carry, he still got 19 carries in his first game. So I'm curious to see how they move forward, what their plan is, because I just don't know if they're trying to win now, if they're trying to build for the future. If not, or do they maybe feel? I mean, we do have some great quarterback classes coming up, so maybe that's what they're preparing for. They're trying to build the team through that way. But what do you think about what you saw from him and just what the Raiders are planning to do as a whole?
I think for him, you saw the workload that Pete Carroll wanted, for obvious reasons. He's trying to compare him to beast mode. I think different running backs. But they do have, similar workloads. And like you said, 19 carries, only 2 yards per average. Geno Smith had a pretty decent game. Jacoby Myers had a good game. Trey Tucker had a touchdown. So offensively, the pass
Amazing
game was
you
working
didn't
pretty
mention
good.
the best receiver on that team, Brock Bowers, but go ahead.
I mean, I'm still talking, but it's cool. I was literally just about to name Brock Bowers. So for me, it's just like I said with Genty, 2 yards per carry, coming out with everybody saying he's generational running back, best running back we've seen. Was even saying he's better than Bijan Robinson already, saying he's better than Saquon Barkley, CMC. That's why I grade him so hard. I'm like, stop. First game of Bijan Robinson, he had the nastiest sidestep first touchdown I've ever seen, where he had caught a screenplay, made a guy miss, and just like that's only Bijan can do that. You know what I mean? Like it was sensational. I haven't seen anything like that out of Genty. And even in the receiving game, I felt like you said they tried to give some screens, but I felt like he should have been a little bit more involved in the screen pass short area game. But I think overall, down the line, if Geno Smith is able to still be able to pass that well, I think it'll help Gianti and the offensive line in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they'll figure out ways to get him involved. Obviously, they want to, with 20-plus touches in your first game. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Thornton, I know that, that's another receiver that they drafted. Kind of big guy, speed guy, and Madden, he's great. I don't know how great he is so far. And in the preseason, he showed some flashes. And I think with Pete Carroll, I just believe in Pete Carroll. If you look at his pedigree, what he was able to do at, when he was a college coach at University of South Carolina, when he took over the Seattle Seahawks, I think in 3 to 4 years, the Raiders are going to be a program, a team that you have to deal with. He knows what he wants as far as scheme on offense and defense. I'm sure he'll get the coordinators around him and be able to build that team. And to the point where they're going to be really tough. The problem is he's walking into the AFC West that's really loaded. The Chargers are really good. The Broncos are really good. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. And all those teams have really elite defenses. So it's going to be a challenge for the Raiders. And like you said, Geno Smith is a 2-year starter, I think, at best. Everybody does like this quarterback class better than even last year's or the year prior, which I think is crazy because you're looking at the last 2 classes outside of Shador, who's going to start eventually. And I think we both agree Jackson Dart will be too. I mean, you're looking at like close to 9 starters in 2 different draft classes. I think that's pretty good, right? When you look at 2 classes, you have 9 starters out of 32 teams.
I think more people are more disappointed in probably the J.J. McCarthy, Drake May draft class than anything.
Yeah, you look at it like McCarthy, right? It's his first start, so we'll be able to see what he looks like. I have questions for him, coming from a heavy run scheme in Michigan, but I think he was in the perfect position. He's going to be in the perfect position to succeed with the coach and the talent around him. Drake May, I'm not giving up on May. I've seen flashes. I'm just hoping that, with Mike Vrabel there, they're able to put him in the right direction. Because I do think he has a guy with a lot of talent. But coming out of North Carolina, right, I said he was a raw talent, give him 2-3 years. Yeah. But I think he'll be a serviceable, above-average quarterback, especially with athleticism. Stephon Diggs, once he gets more chemistry with him. But back to the Raiders, like I said, I think, 2 to 3 years, I think they're going to be a power just because I believe in Pete Carroll. Genti, Gianti, however you say it, I'm not sure at this point, but I think he's going to be solid. I think he's going to be really good. But like you said, I think year one's going to be some struggles, not just because of the offensive line, but just the division he plays in. Right, you got 6 games
Yeah.
against 3 of the top 10 defenses,
Yeah.
so that's going to be a problem in itself.
No, that's true. That they definitely have a tough road ahead of them. All right, moving on pretty quickly here. Let's cover a couple of these. But if you want to go over Tedero McMillan, the receiver for the Panthers, I think he had an amazing game. He led the team in targets. He had 5 of 9 targets, 5 catches, 68 yards, no touchdowns. But even PFF overall grade, they gave him a 78.9, which was the highest on the Panthers offense and one of the highest out of the NFL period for the week one. I saw a lot of great things from him. I know a lot of people questioned his speed coming into the week one, into the preseason, because he didn't test really well on his 40 time. He looked kind of slow, looked kind of sluggish. But my thing is, I feel like a lot of players, maybe not a lot of players, but there's players that really don't care about the 40 time or don't take it seriously, or some of them just don't know how to run the 40, because I do think running the 40 it takes a certain skill. It's not, I mean, it's an Olympic sport for a reason. Being able to run the 100 or 200 or being able to get out of the blocks like that. There's certain techniques, and I feel like if you don't have the right technique, you could look a lot slower than what you are. But I feel like guys like the GOAT, Jerry Rice, is a prime example. His 40 time was apparently, and I don't know, I feel like recently it's been rumored to change or whatnot, but apparently his 40 time was like 4.8, 4.7. But if you look at Jerry Rice's tape, Jerry Rice was never caught from behind. Jerry Rice burnt a lot of players, and so it's not, in-game speed definitely plays a factor, and it is much better of a determining factor for speed than just raw 40 times. And McMillan's probably a really good example of that, to where he had a lot of great breakaways. He had a lot of, his hands just look really great for a guy that's 6'4", 6'5". I think he's 6'5". I mean, his hands are really great. He's got good hands. He's got great route running. He was able to get separation on a lot of throws, which is great for having a big target like McMillan for a small quarterback like Bryce Young. I think if those two can kind of build some more chemistry, build off of that, and then you got a speedster and Xavier Legette, I think they have. I think they have a great future ahead of them as far as the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, they got some question marks, and I mean, I really wish they would have. Chuba Hubbard's a solid running back. I know they've been waiting on my boy Jonathan Brooks from Texas to get healthy so they could finally play him.
Man.
Yeah, I don't know, man. These injuries are rough. They're just really rough. But he's out for another season, so we'll get to see, potentially, hopefully next year, get to see what he looks like. But overall, I think McMillan had a great game. Anything you want to add to that before we move on?
Yeah, no, I mean, surprised me. Like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of McMillan, but 48% of your team's overall receiving yards. Clearly, he's the number one option over there, and only look to see him improve. Really, really bad outing for the whole Panthers offense, especially Bryce Young.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can get some connection with McMillan that might help him move forward. And like you said, they have Legette as well. So, and there's another receiver, I can't remember his name.
Jalen Coker
for the Panthers. Coker, right? So
yep.
I mean, they got some young, good receivers.
And
out
Jimmy
there.
Horn Jr.
And Jimmy Horn Jr., who was amazing training camp guy, right?
Yep.
So
and preseason, yeah.
You look at Leggett and you look at Horn. Those are speed guys, and you look at Coker and you look at especially McMillan. McMillan he just reminds me of that Drake London type role guy who can, contested catches. Maybe even is it better in the slot than on the outside. Maybe they move him around a little bit more as they go. And I really like their head coach, who was I can't remember his name at this point, but he was the offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay. 2 years ago when they got Baker, so I think that's why everybody was excited for him to come with Bryce Young.
Yeah.
He will utilize McMillan a lot. I think you're going to see him utilized a lot more like the Mike Evans type. And yeah, first game, first week, you know what I mean? Jaguars don't have the most elite DBs, but still, as a rookie, first game, 48% of your team's overall receiving yards. That's pretty big.
Yeah, no, definitely so. Moving on to can't go without talking about Tyler Warren, tight end for the Colts, who completely destroyed the Miami Dolphins. Tyler Warren had 7 catches on 9 targets for 76 yards. Even had a rushing attempt, 1 for 3 yards. Yards per catch was 10.9. He also had the longest catch with 21 yards. So, I mean, he just looked amazing. He looks like he's immediately coming in ready to start. I mean, he was only He only finished second in yards. He was top in targets for the team, which is crazy because they have Michael Pittman over there. And he was only second in yards behind Michael Pittman, who had 80 yards. So he was only 4 yards behind Michael Pittman. Yeah, this guy just looks ready. I mean, he came in with, a lot of expectation, and he's definitely living up to all of it. The only other tight end I would say that came in with a little bit more expectation was Colston Loveland for the Chicago Bears, who we're going to see tonight against Minnesota Vikings. So I'm curious to see the comparisons there, to see if Loveland's going to have as similar of a game. I personally don't believe so, just because they have so many weapons in Chicago. I mean, anybody can get that ball over there. I mean, it's literally, and they even have already a great tight end in Cole Kmet. So, but Tyler Warren had an amazing game, especially for a team that needs a little bit more targets. And Daniel Jones, I don't know if he hit the fountain of youth there, or if he just somehow, got reinvigorated somehow, or if the Dolphins were just that bad. But he had an amazing game. What do you think?
Well, the Dolphins were just that bad, right? I mean, that was a terrible game all around by the Dolphins. The offense looked like they couldn't get anything going.
Mm-hmm.
They made the Colts look like an all-world defense. But yeah, Tyler Warren definitely, in my opinion, I thought that Loveland was the better tight end, but you couldn't tell me that by watching Tyler Warren play that first game.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we knew as a receiver he was going to be elite. I think that they used him kind of more of as a slot than a tight end, which is great because that's how he was used as Penn State, kind of all over the place. He kind of reminds me of, and I might butcher his first name, but remember the I forget what they would call him. Like, he was a fullback, but he played tight end. Chris Conley, the former Washington Redskins.
Mm-hmm.
A guy that they moved around as fullback, tight end, kind of athletic guy.
Nice.
Moved him in the slot. Really, really good receiver. Probably not the best blocker, but that's not what they drafted him for. They drafted him to catch passes and get touchdowns, and that's what he did. So
yeah.
Daniel Jones, he had a good game, but again,
nah, not so. Nah, I'm with you there. I'm with you there. It's still that's still Daniel Jones. That guy's still the overpaid. I don't. Hey, really quick here. Don't mean to cut you off. Just got some breaking news. Tank Bigsby just got traded to the Eagles.
Wow.
Yeah, if they didn't have
it. These players, I don't understand.
Well, hold on. First of all,
they're on Madden with salary cap
off. Yeah, I know.
Like, how do you keep getting all these players?
What are they even gonna do with Tank Bigsby? Because first of all, we look at Week 1. I mean, I know we're skipping over here, but we're looking at Week 1. AJ Brown only had 1 target, 1 catch that game. Devontae
Smith come in hampered though a little bit. Like he was
okay. Well, Devontae Smith also only had. Did he have a catch?
Well,
I can't remember if he had a catch.
I know, just kind of looking at some of the replays. I didn't get to see the game live, so I can't tell you straight off, watching it live. But I know that, with Dallas, when healthy, you guys have 2, if not now 3 of the best corners in that division. They're going to see with Ravel Jr., with Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs. Like, that's a really good.
Okay, he did have. I just checked on it. He had 3 catches for 16 yards. So they combined 4 catches for 24 yards with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Go ahead.
Well, and the thing with playing the Cowboys, and just as a Cowboys fan, you're not going to beat the Cowboys by passing. You're going to beat them by running. That's true. That's been the kind of calling card the last couple of years. They're not a physical team. Hopefully, Kenny Clark changes that. But Week 1, you saw. Saquon was able to he didn't have a great game, but he had some Saquon runs, and then Jalen Hurts killed you with his legs, which you talked about before. That's what Jalen Hurts does, right? And just made enough passes. I think the Bigsby trade, I think it's just because we saw Saquon with 300-plus carries last year. Maybe they give him back to that 250, 225 carries, so he kind of saves him a little more fresh for the regular season. And Bigsby's an elite power back who's got a little bit of burst. They did lose Gainwell last year, and they also lost Miles Sanders, right? So they have. I can't even know. I don't even know who their backup was.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you. I was like, who is their backup? I know he came in the game. He spelled Saquon Week 1. Maybe he didn't make that much of it.
Right? Yeah. We can't even remember. And this is right. Saquon prior to last year, he does have injury history. And Bigsby's a young guy. He's still on a rookie deal. I think this is his 3rd year in the NFL. So
yeah,
I think it's more of a let's spell Saquon a little bit during the season with a young guy who still can help us move the chains in the run game and does bring a different element than Saquon does. And then also in Jacksonville, like I said, hey, fantasy note. Hey, they're all in on Travis
Travis
Etienne again.
Etienne,
So go get your
which is
speed to him.
crazy because I remember coming into this season, there was a lot of question marks on Etienne, and maybe he was potentially going to be losing his job to a Tank Bigsby. But I
Or
guess,
traded.
yeah, I guess after his Week 1 performance, which was amazing, by the way, I know we didn't talk about it too much when we talked about the Jags, but he had an amazing Week 1 performance. I guess they saw enough to say, all right, we'll go back all in on you, and you're our guy. But yeah, so they did
And
get
they
Tank
did just
Bigsby.
draft.
They did get Bigsby for
Oh, go
just
ahead.
a 5th and a 6th round pick. So, yeah,
Yeah, the GM over there in Philly, like he needs
yeah,
to win GM of the year every year. Like
that guy's
he's
playing
already making
Monopoly.
plays. You know, another guy who we didn't get to talk about because it was an early game is Jahad Campbell. They get him in the first round. He had a great
Yeah,
impact on the game. But if you look, also, I'm looking at Jacksonville, and I also remember, like, I think they also make this move because remember they did have a rookie that they liked too in Tutton.
yeah,
So
yep.
in Jacksonville, you still keep your two-headed beast. You know, you get a 5th or 6th round pick for a Bigsby, and for the Eagles, like you said, now you have a reliable backup, somebody who can take some carries, who's proven in the NFL,
True.
to help
I mean,
Saquon stay healthy.
even speaking about that, Jahad Campbell, I mean, he received the highest PFF overall grade among defenders, period. He had an 88.3. He played 56 defensive snaps, had 3 total tackles, all of them assisted. But he also had a forced fumble and one pass defended. And one of those pass defenders was on a deep ball, I believe. I remember watching it. It was on a deep ball. Matter of fact, it was against Ferguson. He was defending Ferguson on a deep ball. So,
Seeing
yeah.
that guy, yeah, we didn't even really talk about this in the show, but for me, I know I talked about it to you guys and, in our little groups that we talk about pre-draft. I thought Jahad Campbell was the best defensive player in the
Yeah,
draft.
you did
And the
say that.
fact that the Philadelphia Eagles got him where they got him, and that's the
Yeah.
position. And it's just crazy. Like I said, the Eagles, everything is just working for them. Like they're getting everything that they need, and this team, like I said, is going to be really good, and should be a Super Bowl favorite moving forward. But yeah, it's a big move right there. I also just saw, not to cut you off too, Monday night game's going to start here in 10 minutes. Jalen Johnson's not playing tonight, so that's big for JJ.
Yeah, I saw that.
McCarthy
He's
and Justin
inactive.
Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really big.
I think, I think that's going to have a huge impact on the Bears defense. The Bears defense is still really solid, so it's going to be kind of curious to see. But without Jalen Johnson, the guard Justin Jefferson, Justin Jefferson might be in for a crazy night. So I might have to look at my targets and my slips on my sports bets and change some things up there. But rounding off the show, we have to talk about the Ravens and Bills game last night. First of all, an amazing game. We really got to see why both of those guys were up for number 1 and number 2 MVP. They show their caliber.
Or was it just great at the last 4 minutes of the game? Because it was
No. I mean, it was honestly, it was back and forth throughout the whole game. Like both teams looked unstoppable. I mean, the Ravens got a couple of stops early to build that lead. But then, even the commentators said, they were like, Harbaugh's like, man, how do we put these guys away? Because it's like every time the Bills would come down and score, the Ravens would answer right back with an amazing drive themselves. A big Henry run touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins with a potential catch of the year candidate with one hand. Every time that they went down, the Bills were still just coming right back like, hey, we're still in this thing. Like, we just got to keep fighting. And, unfortunate to say, but the Ravens, it's been their staple that they continue to give up big games, give away big games in the end. I just looked at a crazy stat. John Harbaugh has 17 blown double-digit leads, the most by any coach since 1991. So, yeah, that's kind of a problem. What do we think about that game?
Yeah, just watching the game live, and then honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of almost fell asleep at the end because it looked like the Ravens were running away with it, and then I wake up and I'm like, this is a 2-point game. What's going on?
You
So
weren't
then
the
I
only
started
one.
to
A lot of the
rewatch.
Bills fans left. They left. They were trying to get
Right.
back in because they thought the game was over.
Yeah, Josh Allen kind of gave him a shot at the end, so like we'll see how they respond to that. But for me, I'm looking at it, and I just feel like the Ravens, they either outscored themselves or they got complacent to where they thought the game was kind of over, and then things just started to spiral. Right when you look at that 4th and 2 with Josh Allen. Like, yeah, he's trying to make a play, but it was such a lucky play where, like, the ball gets defended by tapped by a Ravens defender, and then, like, Wiggins is tackling the guy, because after a tip, you can actually tackle defenders downfield. There's no more pass interference. So he does his job, and all of a sudden, it just somehow magically drops into Keon Coleman's hand. So that's a huge play. Then literally the next possession, the King Henry, who had an amazing game all game, he fumbles, and
Mm-hmm.
then the play before that, even before that, where Henry had a huge touchdown, the kicker, the rookie kicker who
Yeah.
they just got, misses an extra point. So everything kind of lined up for the Bills to win that game at the end. Where like you look at the game. 6 minutes to the fourth quarter, it might have been a little back and forth, but it looked like the Ravens kind of had that one in hand,
You didn't even have to look 6 minutes. 4 minutes left in the game. The Ravens were up 40-25. They had a 99.1% chance of winning.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, so
Yeah.
and then, here's the thing, because I think you told me this earlier off air. I'm just like, hey man, I can't really talk about another team when my team is the Falcons and we blew a 28-3 Super Bowl lead. So for me, I'm just like, hey man, nothing's worse.
I mean, but here's to the defense of the Falcons. That's one game. Now, granted, it was the biggest game, and especially for I mean, for them, especially for that franchise, that really could have changed the franchise around because that would have been you guys first, correct?
Yeah, first and only. Yeah.
Yeah.
Only been twice.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that the Ravens have blown this many games, though, like that, like I said, it's been their annual. And what makes it more sad for me is not only the fact that they've blown this many games, the fact that they've blown this many games with elite defenses. They don't have like the Bengals defense where like, yeah, these guys give up 30 points a game. I get that. The Ravens somehow keep getting better. I mean, we talk about rookies. Let's go to Malachi Starks. I mean, he had an amazing game that last night. Let's go. He had 7 total tackles, 3 solo, 4 assisted. Had a half a tackle for a loss. I mean, he was everywhere. Even Kyle Hamilton, when he was talking about mentoring, he said there wasn't really much that he had to kind of teach. I mean, this guy just kind of came in ready. So. Yeah, I mean, they keep getting better on defense. I mean, they got Matabuke, which is, my opinion, probably the second, arguably the third.
Jaire Alexander got killed. Like he was one of the new additions, and he kind of gave up a lot of plays.
He did, but can we attribute that? Some of that has to be attributed to the fact that Josh Allen made some throws that not every quarterback's going to be able to make. I mean, he even said it in his press conference. He said, we played a great team. And we played against a great quarterback. It's week 1. Like, yeah, I mean, some of it you could be like, well, he maybe is deflecting. But honestly, I think it's honest. Like, it's the Bills. We're not talking about like any team just came in there and beat the Ravens. So let's get that straight. It's the reigning MVP, Josh Allen, playoff-bound team, a team that's always in the mix in the AFC is the Bills. The team who's been the Ravens' bane between them and the Chiefs for the last couple years. So we're not talking any team here.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it was a case of me, and I've seen it a lot, not even in NFL and college football as well, where like teams get ahead and they just kind of fall asleep. Yeah, I feel like even before they were able to take the lead, the Bills with the field goal, the Ravens had another opportunity to kill the game, and they had a 3-and-out. So yeah. I think that's the thing with the mentality. And I don't know which coach said it, but I just remember, because I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan, when we had our head coaches over there, especially Jimmy Johnson, and we would run up the score on teams, and they would get upset about it. He's like, well, if you don't like a scoring, then, or dancing in the end zone, then stop us from scoring.
Stop us scoring,
and for me, as a team, like, you always need to keep your foot on the gas, because these are professional athletes. The game is never over till it's over, right? And we've seen way too many instances where that's the case. Yeah. And I think, when you're looking at a team like the Ravens, you could see the sideline, you see everything, you hear like everybody, the fans everybody thought this game was over.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem, I think, that they just kind of fell asleep. And I credit to the Bills for not giving up, but I think it's more so, like you said, on the Ravens, like, that's a mentality thing. That wouldn't have happened if Ed Reed or Ray Lewis is there. You're not doing that. You're not losing that game. So,
well, then, I mean, that speaks to leadership, and I know you're about to mention them, and I want to talk about that. Like, okay, how much do you put on Lamar Jackson's shoulders? Because he's technically the leader of that team. I mean, I know you say without a Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, I know they're the defensive responsibility, but how much responsibility? I mean, the quarterback has the most important role in the game. Can we? Is that a slight to Lamar Jackson's leadership that he's not a great leader?
I'm putting that more on Roro and Matabike and those guys, because when you score 40 points, you expect
Roquan Smith, yeah.
When you score 40 points, you expect to win in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to put that on the quarterback. And even Derrick Henry, like you said, losing that fumble, I'm not going to put it on Derrick Henry. That's on the defense. You can't give away 15 points in the last 4 minutes of the game. You just can't do it. So that's definitely on the defensive side, and that's head coach. I'm not putting it on Lamar. As much as we like, everybody likes to put shit on the quarterback, stuff on the quarterback, excuse my language. But same time, I'm looking at him. You score 40, you did your job. 100% you did your job.
That's
you
true.
Can't go out there and play defense for him. You know
well,
what I mean?
And especially when you look at the Bills. The Bills don't have like top 5 receivers. I mean, they got a sophomore in Keon Coleman who made a statement this game. He says like, "Hey, I'm ready to be wide receiver 1," because I know there was a lot of speculation after his first year, but he had a really great training camp. Josh Allen said amazing things about him leading up to this game, and I feel like he showed it. And then, like I said, you got Khalil Shakir, who's still amazing player there. Joshua Palmer, veteran receiver who made some great plays. James Cook, obviously coming off that contract, showing that he deserved that contract. I mean, he had a big 50-yard run. Yeah, I mean, like I said, but my point is they didn't do it with elite talent. Yeah, they got Austin Kincaid. Matt, they had 3 tight ends, actually, they got in. I think a third tight end. Yeah, Dawson Knox. And they had another tight end that I think got in the end zone this game. So, yeah, I mean, but like I said, the point is like they have great role players. To me, it reminds me of Michael Jordan's Bulls. Like, he didn't have superstars on that team. I mean, the best player, his sidekick, was Scottie Pippen, but like, he played around Steve Kerr, Craig Hodges, Ron Harper, Luke Longley. So like these weren't like superstar level players, and so like looking at Josh Allen, it's like, yeah, you got Josh Allen, Dalvin Cook. You could say these guys are top players, but who else? Like Dalton Kincaid, James Cook. These guys aren't elite players. He's not a Justin Jefferson. This isn't
supposed to be elite though.
He is, but he's not Kelsey. He's not Mark Andrews. I'd take Pat Freiermuth over him. I like and then Brock Bowers and Laporta. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I would take all those guys over. Not to say that Kincaid's not bad. Like, Kincaid's obviously a great player, but I'd say he's like top 7, top 8. That'd be my opinion. But the point is, like I said, they didn't get beat out there like, that's Justin Jefferson. How do we guard him? No, you went and got Jair Alexander. You have Marlon Humphrey. You have Nate Wiggins. You have Kyle Hamilton. You just drafted Malachi Starks, who's already. You have one of the best, if not the best, secondary in the league, and you give up 15 points in 4 minutes. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm attributing this week 1. Not gonna over-exaggerate,
yeah.
Right? Even if it's the Ravens, and this is kind of like revisionist history for them.
Yeah.
I'm expecting this team to buckle down and be an elite defense again, be in there for the playoffs. Now, if this happens in the playoffs, the first game of the playoffs, then we have a different discussion to have, right? Like you said.
Well, that'd be 3 years in a row. Lamar Jackson fails to make it to the bowl.
And like I said, with the coach itself, 17 double-digit leads lost. Like that's not a good thing. And I think he's the second most, if not the longest tenured NFL head coach in the league right now.
Probably behind Mike Tomlin, I would say, maybe.
Yeah, so you're probably looking at maybe a coaching change because you're obviously not getting rid of Lamar Jackson. And
no.
So you're looking at it where we'll see. I mean, it's week 1. This is how I'm going to look at it, honestly, and this is just me looking at the game and kind of after the words. It's a game that the Ravens blew again, and I think they got complacent when they were up. Everybody on the sideline started celebrating too early, and then just in sports in general, it's all about momentum. Once you take your foot off the gas, it's hard to rev it back up during the game, right? And I think the Buffalo Bills never took their foot off the gas, and then here's the other thing too. When you're down, you have nothing to lose. So that's why that 4th and 2 play where Josh Allen is just throwing the ball literally blindly, and he luckily gets a touchdown, and then you get a forced fumble by Derrick Henry. I'm like, okay, now all the momentum is going your way. You literally had nothing to lose. The fans didn't even think you were going to win. There's probably a lot of players, even though they afterwards they probably didn't even think they were going to win. So for me, I'm not really looking into this game too much. It's the first game of the season. Nobody really plays preseason. And these are different teams in a little aspect. Like you said, Keon Coleman, 8 for 112 and a touchdown. That's a receiver 1 to me all day. Yeah. So you're looking at he may be that guy now. Yeah. He was drafted as that guy, right? So for me, they might have their number 1 now, and great game for the Bills and for Josh Allen, because last year I didn't think Josh Allen deserved the MVP, but at the end of that game, he showed why he was the MVP. So good for him, good for that team. But all right, let me wrap this
up. We're hitting the hour mark. I want to get one more. We got to get this pregame talk about. We got the Vikings and the Bears coming up. Last minute and a half. Give me your best 30 seconds. What are you looking to see? Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy. What do we want to see here?
I just want to see how McCarthy looks throwing the ball downfield. Obviously, Jalen Johnson should help him out. And then for Caleb Williams, I just want to see with Ben Johnson being there, like, is he able to get the ball out of his hands quicker and not take 68 sacks like he did last year, because there's nothing but talent around him. So honestly, I'm expecting this to be a close game, another divisional game, and I expect Caleb Williams to have a good game, and I'm expecting Jalen McCarthy to be solid because of his coach.
That's a lot of expectations for these young guys. On my side, I definitely am curious to see J.J. McCarthy. It's his first start. See how he meshes with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and see how Aaron Jones
Addison's
does.
out.
Oh, Addison's out. Okay, well, just at least, I guess, see how he does with Jefferson and see how Aaron Jones plays this game. Caleb Williams, like I said, I'm expecting great things from him. He has a great team. He has a great coordinator and coach over there. So I'm just expecting him to play well. If he doesn't play well, I feel like that he shouldn't have been drafted as high. I'm already not that all in on him as it is. I feel like he's been given an opportunity that a lot of young quarterbacks, especially in the past, weren't given. Like, my go-to guy to talk about is RG3. If RG3 had this type of talent around him, RG3 probably would have been in the playoffs every year. But yeah, so I'm expecting great things from Caleb Williams, and I feel like he needs to meet the expectations. DeAndre Swift over there, Cole Kmet, I mean, the guy's got a whole list. We can name all the targets this guy's got to throw it to. So there's no reason to have a bad offense out there. Other than that, pretty exciting game we have coming up. We'll get into some more next week to some more veteran talk, especially, like I said, we'll have some Coach of the Year or some early Catch of the Year candidates. We'll get a better look at, after week one jitters. We'll get to see how teams are kind of shaking up their rosters, if any, see how teams kind of fine-tune their game plans, and then we'll get into some more college football this year. I know we didn't get too much time to talk about it since today. We had a lot to cover, especially a lot of the rookies, and we still didn't even really get through all of it, but, there's a lot to cover, but great talk as always. Make sure you guys tune in next week. We're going to try to add some more things to the pod to kind of keep it live. One of the things I want to start adding in is I want to start collecting some of the highlights of the plays that we are talking about in our pod, but also be able to show you guys that just in case you did miss it, so that way we can kind of talk about the play live, keep it fresh in our minds, so that like, hey, this is what it looked like, maybe even kind of review some 2-minute drives or some of the top plays that were key moments in the game. So just some things to kind of freshen up the pod. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you guys check out us on all of our new socials. Like I said, they're all down below right here on the screen. Our new YouTube. We have an Instagram we're going to post on every day. TikTok. You can message us on Twitter. We'll be giving our takes on there. So like I said, a lot of content ahead for you guys. We appreciate the support. And stay with us, and we'll tune in next week, Monday, give or take, 6:30 p.m. CST. Signing out.